If you tuned in today to the 2024 Paris-Roubaix, you witnessed a bit of history. World champion Mathieu van der Poel celebrating solo in the World Championship rainbow stripes today here in the Roubaix velodrome. A lap and a half, and it was his victory after so many kilometers out there on the northern France farm roads today. Celebration, it was the first time since 2018 a world champion has won the Queen of the Classics, the Hell of the North. It's also Mathieu van der Poel's second win here, back-to-back in this race, adding to 3 other monuments in Flanders, 3 other wins in Flanders, and another monument in Milano-San Remo last year. And now doing the math, what are we at there? 4 plus 2 times in this one, 6 monument wins. He's showing unstoppable, a man in his prime, the Dutchman, 29 years old, a masterclass show of force today. And we're gonna talk about what a show of force it was. We were looking at a fast edition. It was sunny, mostly dry. The pavé kept good because it wasn't dusty out there because we had rain in recent days. That means we didn't see those huge dust clouds to make a dramatic scene, but we did see dramatic racing. An early escape that never really amounted to anything. They were brought back, and then we hit the Arenberg Forest. There, around 100 kilometers to go, with that chicane leading into it, a new innovation by the organization to try to slow down the riders. In fact, I don't think we saw a crash in the Arenberg Forest today. Probably wasn't so much due to that chicane, but the fact that it was a small group going into that forest. And there we saw the rainbow jersey and Mathieu van der Poel on the front. And we saw what was going to be a theme throughout the day when he was on the front. Danish rider, former world champion, Team Lidl Trek, Mads Pedersen doing the chasing and trying to close things down. But Mads, well, he couldn't match the strength of Mathieu van der Poel, but also the strength of the Alpecin-Deceuninck team, because that team came out today and underlined why they are the team of the 2024 Spring Classics. Lidl Trek was doing so, and they pulled off victory in Gent-Wevelgem when Mads Pedersen beat Mathieu van der Poel. But they were, of course, down numbers. They took a hit in Dwars-Dwarf-Vlaanderen, and that big crash that we saw take out Wout van Aert that made him unable to compete in the rest of the spring campaign. Well, that crash had also taken out Jasper Stuyven and Alex Kirsch, key men for Mads Pedersen in these cobbled classics. And today, he couldn't match team against team, and also, frankly, couldn't match man against man because Mathieu van der Poel had a few tricks up his sleeve today. One, it was Alpecin-Deceuninck, how they were playing their game, and they were playing it well. We saw that a week ago in the Tour of Flanders where Mathieu van der Poel also won, and we saw it here again today because before he launched his attack to go solo, it was Johnny Vermeersch, really the man of the day, the MVP. Johnny Vermeersch was out on the attack with Nils Politt and Stefan Kung. Both of those riders are huge engines, guys that can easily win a Paris-Roubaix. And then you throw in the mix Johnny Vermeersch, which is great news for Mathieu van der Poel. Hey, let those guys go up the road and we'll get a scenario maybe like we had an Omloop Het Nieuwsblad at the beginning of this classic season where a smaller rider, a C-ranked, B-ranked rider in the team wins the race, as we saw Jan Tratnik winning Omloop when Wout van Aert played that tactic. Well, they played that tactic today, and it stayed for quite a while. Politt and Kung were in a good move. They were riding well. They were happy with it. Johnny Vermeersch was happy to get in there and set in, do a few turns, and he knew back behind Mathieu van der Poel could take a rest, take it easy. Well, as Mads Pedersen, who eventually, along with Tom Pidcock, who had to bring back that move because they realized that was going to be too dangerous. And Pidcock, let's mention the Ineos Grenadiers team because they were down to men with Josh Tarling holding on to the team car for way too long in the race, and the officials, they caught that with all their cameras everywhere. They saw him and they DQ'd him during the race. Pidcock was down in numbers, also probably a bit down in strength considering he crashed before the Tour of Basque Country even started. Then the team decided he was able to start here in Paris-Roubaix after winning junior title in Paris-Roubaix. He was going to try to do so here at the elite levels. And he's one of those guys, one of those champions that can take on a Van der Poel. The other rider, of course, is Tadej Pogacar, and another rider, of course, is Wout van Aert. None of those guys are here today. Pidcock is here today, but wasn't at the level we needed him at to make a real man against man show. And so we were treated to a Van der Poel show. And after that trio was brought back, the Poel, the Koong, and the Vermeers trio, well, things were starting to get revved up for Mathieu van der Poel. And it wasn't in the Mons-en-Pavel sector. We have those 3 5-star sectors, Arenberg, Mons-en-Pavel, and the Carrefour de l'Arbre, just getting here close to the finish and close to the Belgian border, just over my shoulder. Instead of the Mons-en-Pavel sector, it was the sector beforehand, the Orchy sector. That's where Mathieu van der Poel decided to launch. 59.7 kilometers to go. He attacked, he went away. It was Mads Pedersen doing the chasing, but he couldn't hold the Van der Poel Express bullet train for Roubaix, and the gap, well, it became bigger and bigger, and Van der Poel was gone, flying solo in the rainbow jersey towards victory. Had he attacked just a few hundred meters earlier, he would have had the longest solo escape victory in Paris-Roubaix. That title still hangs on the shoulders of Andre Schmil back in 1994, a 60-kilometer solo move. Today, by our calculations, it was 59.7 for Mathieu van der Poel. He stuck away solo. We saw a chase group form behind that includes Pedersen. It included Jasper Philipsen, Van der Poel's teammate, who was just setting in, hoping for a sprint for second place, which is what he did. And then also in that group, we had Stefan Koong from Groupama FDJ, Lawrence Pithy from Groupama FDJ, and also Nils Polet. So a strong group was chasing behind Mathieu van der Poel. The Groupama FDJ team, well, they were the team with multiple cards to play. Philipsen wasn't going to help out in that move, and Pedersen wanted to do something to try to bring it back, but at a certain point, it was 1 minute, 2 minutes, and then it just became too much. They knew they were racing for second place. Also, with Philipsen there discouraging any sort of bridging up to Van der Poel, it wasn't going to happen. Unfortunately for Lawrence Pithy, the Kiwi New Zealander who's been riding so well in his debut in the Cobble Classics as a professional, he crashed in one of the sectors, and that meant Koong was down a man that could help him here in the final, and that's unfortunate for our friend King Koong. Without Pithy there in the mix, the dynamics really did change. You could feel the weight of Philipsen setting on, and everything shifted to the sprint here in the velodrome for second spot. Van der Poel comes into the velodrome, celebrates what is another monumental victory in the 2024 Paris-Roubaix. He adds to his list of monument victories, and victories also that include stages in the Tour, stage in the Giro. And I asked him over there in the mix zone afterwards what it meant today. Well, it was one, winning in the rainbow jersey, which is what he did also in Flanders. He'd never done that before. Also the style and way he won. Riding solo there, enjoying the moment. He said he really enjoyed the victory today, really kind of soaked it all in, and really thanked his teammates there. All the Alpecin de Koenig riders in the double denim kit. The jury's out on whether or not that kit's enjoyable or not, beautiful. You let me know what you think about that kit. I don't know about it, but anyway, the team rode strong. So he thanked the team, and also I asked him about, hey, Mathieu, why not kind of spread those palmars out and try to get another monument? Lombardia, the other 2 monuments that are on the list for him that he could possibly win, Lombardia and Liège-Bastogne-Liège. The other 2 monuments, well, Lombardia is probably not in his wheelhouse to get that victory. Liège-Bastogne-Liège, maybe so, especially with the new finish that they have here in recent years. He's going into that race. That's next up on his schedule after Amstel Gold. He goes on to Liège-Bastogne-Liège before pulling the plug. And you really have to hand it to the team because they've pinpointed his calendar this year. Parachuting in to Milan-San Remo, his first race of the season, helps his teammate Jasper Philipsen win there. Then doing E3, winning there, finishing second and get Wevelgem to Mads Pedersen, taking a break, then reappearing in Flanders, winning there. A week later, reappearing here, winning here. Hey, Alpecin de Koenig, congratulations. Mathieu van der Poel, congratulations. Now I want to talk about the sprint behind, because the sprint behind, Mads Pedersen led it out here, lap and a half. We didn't think Philipsen perhaps had the legs to do it, but he comes around late and he does it. There on the final banks, we see the 2-up sprint between Pedersen and Philipsen, and it's Philipsen who gets it, just as he did last year. Last year it was over Van Aert. Today it was over Mads Pedersen. And behind those guys, it was Nils Polet who didn't contest in the sprint. And further on, it was Stefan Koong. Now I want to say Lawrence Plithy, great ride. I think he finished 7th on the day. And if we're looking further back, Fred Wright, Bahrain victorious, did a great ride, flying the British colors there. Also Tom Pidcock, considering the circumstances coming into this race and the crash in the Tour of the Basque Country, he did a great ride in the top 20. We'll have to look at the results. I think he's in the top 20. And then if you're looking down the results, further down, we see our American friend, Riley Sheehan from Israel Premier Tech. And he's been such a good spirit every time we speak with him at the finishes and at the starts. And today finishes 75th at 12 minutes back behind Mathieu van der Poel. And riders would keep coming in here even though they were outside the time limit. It's a shame they do a time limit in this one-day race, but they did. And they were finishing as Mathieu van der Poel was finishing up the last of his interviews. But mark it down, today was a day of history. 59.7 kilometer solo move, world champion. At some point you might thought, well, a bit of a boring race, but it was a race of history. When we look back in 10, 20 years time, we'll remember this solo ride, Mathieu van der Poel conquering another monument, raising his hands here in the Roubaix velodrome at the 2024 Paris-Roubaix.